Coming up on a post-game edition of the Jaguars Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network, BTJ, more like BTA, a beatdown of the Los Angeles Chargers, what Anthony Campanelli and his defense did to get right.
Yeah, in my opinion, what they did was they actually went out and forced themselves to be exactly what they keep talking about being. They actually did it yesterday without a magic wand.
And just like you said, Mia, Tony, they stuck to the game plan, they got after them, and they got the W in a decisive fashion.
Duval, it's the Jaguars Squad. Everything Jacksonville Jaguars every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Sunshine State, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Gear up. The Jaguars Squad Show starts now.
What's going on, party people? Welcome into a post-game edition on a Monday of the Jaguars Squad Show, following a resounding 35-6 victory for the Big Cats at Everbank Stadium in Week 11. Mia O'Brien, Tony Wiggins, Marques Ogden, we are with you for the next hour as we break down not only this victory, but look ahead to what it means for the Jaguars' Week 12 matchup, less than a week away, out in Phoenix, or I guess Glendale. T-Wig, are they still the Phoenix Cardinals, or are we still calling them that? I don't know. Irvin's left. Marcus is shaking his head. The Arizona Cardinals, 3-7. Can the Jaguars find that, for as Liam Cohen called it, pissed off mentality and pull off another victory that looks like this one in 6 days' time? Before we get going, of course, want to say that today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Let's dive right into it, boys. T-Wig, I'll start with you. Biggest takeaway from the Jaguars' 35-6 victory for you is?
Being able to go out and actually be on display, all the things that you talk about, all the things that you say you want to do. Sometimes in the past, I got a feeling that coaches were coaching around their weaknesses. And everybody's so guarded about not being put in a position where they have to do something that they want, or that they may want to do, but something that they don't do very well. And so they try to hide it. They didn't run from smoke. They said we want to be physical. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to go out and do it. They had not been doing that maybe over the past 3 or 4 weeks. Yesterday, they said, you know what? If we're going to say it, we're going to have to do it. And the only way we're going to do it is it's not going to be a magic wand. We're not going to find some all-pro left tackle walking around on the street. We're not going to be able to change the roster until the offseason. And this is what I said last week. It's like, figure it out. Y'all just got to be better. You got to play better. You have to be self-motivated to have pride and whoop that guy across from you. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but you never know if you don't try. They tried yesterday and they succeeded.
Marcus, as a former NFL offensive lineman yourself, is physicality something that gets turned on, turned off, or is it based off of the strength of the opposing defensive line?
So as an offensive lineman, if you aren't going to be physical in the running game, do not sign up to be an offensive lineman. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. Pass protection is more technique, more angles, more reads, more body position, all that. Running the football, 3 things matter. Great base, great leverage, great hands. If you are lower than the guy you're supposed to be blocking, if your hands are inside, and if your feet are about 2 inches outside your shoulders with a great firm base, and you just keep turning, duck walking and drive those feet into the earth or the ground, you should move people out of the hole. And the Jaguars did exactly that this past weekend. They had 4 rushing touchdowns, 3, and then Trevor Lawrence had 1. They didn't give any sacks. They kept their base low. They kept their hands inside, and they kept their leverage low. And when you do that, that's a recipe for success. But again, you have to call the plays for the run to run the football. The line cannot run block if they're not calling running plays. And they are now calling running plays. Now it's time to run the football.
47 called rushing plays by Liam Cohen on Sunday, 40 of them inside the tackles, Marques Ogden. I want to go through a couple different specific players. I know no one is happier about not just the result of this game, but how it got done than you, because it was predicated on the second best rushing output by this team in 2025. A couple of notes in the chat already that I want to get to in terms of exact personnel, names, your thoughts on their performance. Certainly, as Duval TV points it out, Ezra Cleveland back after a 1 week absence after missing the Houston Texans game with a ankle injury. And then Walker Little, much maligned after that performance in Houston. Both handled business according to Duval TV. Marcus, evaluate that left side of the line in particular on Sunday.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job of, at the point of attack, getting off the football first. As an offensive lineman, it's all about, the snap count. You know it. The defensive linemen, they do not know it. And so, two things, you know the snap count and you know where the football is going. Those are your advantages at offensive line. And so what they did a great job at the point of attack. They comboed well. And again, Tony knows this from boxing sports for a long time. When you have two guys that play beside each other for a long period of time, Cleveland and Little, and you get to work together and know each other's tendencies, know how to help each other out, how to work together as a unit, all you're going to do is improve the likelihood that you're going to be effective in the running game and in pass protection. So I thought they both did a phenomenal job. And again, you go after, again, inside the tackles. The Chargers were not good inside tackles against the run. It had been proven all season. That was one of their weak areas. The Jaguars did exactly what you're supposed to do. You find, and when it talked about last time, you don't put bad things on film. Because when we see it on film, we're going to come after you. So they saw it on film, they went after it, and they got the W.
Marcus, real quick, and then I want to throw this one at T-Wig. You had questions last week about that stat that I pulled, that Travis Etienne averaging over 7 yards per carry running behind the left guard. Maybe that was a little predictable, but T-Wig, he ran behind the left guard yesterday. So did Bashal Tootin, although I think they ran a little bit more up the middle inside the tackles as well. What do you make of this performance? Was it solely because Ezra Cleveland returned to this offensive line, or did the players simply elevate their play across the left to the right side?
Go ahead, Marcus.
No, so I was going to say, when you bring back a veteran that has been proven to showcase he can do his job and elevate people around you, that's what happens. And Tony knows this best. Offensive line, it is not an individual position. You have greats at certain positions, yes, but even the greats can't do it by themselves. It's not like you're like, Myles Garrett having 4 sacks in the first half against Baltimore. Like, this is not how it goes. It's all about teamwork, working together, and camaraderie. So when you have that ability to work together as a unit, Ezra Cleveland brought back some sustainability and some attitude. And when you have that at the offensive line, Tony knows this, great things happen.
Yeah, T-Wig, what say you? Do you think that Ezra just simply raised the level across the line, or did it just change things because of that dynamic between he and the left tackle?
I think two things can be true. I think Ezra coming back certainly helped that situation. Because like Marcus said, offensive linemen have always told me that it's about chemistry, cohesion, continuity, all of that. And it's like somebody told me years ago, just think about the Temptations and New Edition. That's what it's like. If one guy's out of step, it could wreck that whole choreography. So that's why it's so important to have people next to you that you know exactly what they're going to do, especially if there's a pull, if there's a switch, you know where his foot is going to be. You ain't stepping on his foot. There comes with a lot of trust. And just probably a lot of just eye contact stuff that they know and they don't even discuss and talk about. So the reason why I say two things can be true is because, and I know you'll get to this, it also affected the defense. Whatever they did in that building, holding people accountable, making sure that they weren't too nice about it, being motivated. Mia, you and I discussed this, and I mentioned this on my show. We discussed yesterday. I told the story about a certain artist that said he wakes up every day trying to eat his opponent's face off. And he wakes up every day motivated based on what he wants to outwork somebody else. And I said, now imagine if the dude that you're trying to outwork takes the day off. You still ain't going to work. You have to be self-motivated. So what they went through, that anger, that being peed off, they were peed off at themselves. because the last 8 quarters, they dominated 7 of them. They should be 2-0 when you do that, and they weren't. So they were angry at themselves on the offensive side of the ball as well as the defensive side of the ball. And I like the fact that they turned that anger into production, and they turned it into, hey, we're going to place this in the right situation. And it all came from self-reflection. So whatever they did to get them going, the pass rush, the offensive line, a line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, turning people over again, getting young guys to rush the passer. I think there's a duality to Ezra Cleveland coming back, help the offensive line, but also team-wise, what they decided to do with that energy that they had. That, to me, says that it was both.
Go for it, Marcus.
Real fast, Tony, Mia. Why are the Indianapolis Colts at 8-2?
Because Jonathan Taylor can run the football.
Thank you. They run the football. Exactly. And Tony, when a defense is fresh, because the offensive line and the offense is running the ball 47 times in a game, what happens is the D-line gets to sit on that sideline and rest. They get back onto the field. They're fresh. The offensive line, those guys, that they haven't been on the field, you get stiff. Your body locks up. It's not the same. So when you're on the field running the football, people don't think about this. As an offensive lineman, your body wants to be moving and fluid and keep it moving. If you sit out for a long time, you get stiff on offense, but on defense, because you're more athletic, you're fresh. You get on that field, you can rush the passer better, you can get after the run better, you can hustle harder, and that's exactly what happened on Sunday. They were rested during the game, they got on the field, and it was time to play defense, and they got after them because they were running the football, and they kept their D-line fresh. That's why they were so impactful on Sunday.
One more quick note on the offense before we do flip it over to the defense, where a bit of history was made for the Jaguars defensive line. Robert does want to give some flowers to Quentin Morris, who opened up some nice holes in the run game as well. I would agree with that sentiment, Robert. I know Tony and Marcus would too. Shout out to number 80, who also got some love from Liam Cohen in Monday's press conference, which we'll get to coming up a little bit later in the program. But as Wayne puts it, the D-line fought through clear holds, BS roughing calls, still dominated. Trayvon and Josh showed up. Now it is about consistency. T-Wig, the floor is yours. How are they going to find that consistency along that defensive front?
Just got to stay hungry, and they got to keep doing it. And yesterday showed me that they know that they can do it if they put their mind to it and put their focus to it. So now, one thing about it, once you show a coach you can do something, he's going to expect you to do it all the time. And if you and he won't think that you're in some sort of a funk, that mentally you have a mental block because you just overcame that, right? So I do believe with Trayvon getting healthier, with them hearing all the noise about what they are and what they aren't, the bottom line is they probably look back and say, we dominated 7 of the last 8 quarters that we've played. And we realized that one bad quarter, not only one bad quarter, one bad possession, one bad play, one bad series, all of those things can really, really cost this team. They only got penalized once yesterday, and that helped the running game too, because they were able to control down and distance, and they didn't have a long way to go. And Trevor didn't have to drop back with those 5 and 7 step drops that Marcus was talking about. I liken the running game to body punches, though. I can watch a boxing match that the average eye thinks is easier, and I'll see one guy swinging nothing but head punches, landing big blows. And you see another guy, he just digging to the body. I say, he's going to win. The only way he can lose is if he gets knocked out by one punch. But other than that, usually round 6, 7, and 8, now those punches lose steam. Now the guy starts dropping his hands. Now he doesn't want to engage. And usually the body puncher is the one coming forward. That's how offensive linemen in running games are when they work. So that's what happened yesterday. I think they can really, really keep it up.
One penalty that was assessed officially for the Jacksonville Jaguars, right. A 5-yard illegal touching penalty by Jarian Jones, which I do think was huge, T-Wig. I think it was huge in keeping the offense on schedule, keeping them ahead of the sticks, the ability to actually go deep into that playbook. But Marcus, there was another penalty that was offset by a Chargers penalty. That BS roughing call that Wayne Erickson is referring to, the one by BJ Green that negated his first career sack. King David in the chat adds, we need more Dennis Gardick and BJ Green together on the ends because they were wrecking havoc on the D line. What say you, Marcus, about some of these other names with Emmanuel Ogbah, a healthy scratch, the off-ball linebacker, excuse me, Sam linebacker in Dennis Gardick getting a bit more run, even up the middle at times. He was lined up in the B and the A gap at different moments in that second half. And of course, those two undrafted free agent rookies in Danny Strigow and BJ Green getting their most significant run on defense of the season.
So here's the great thing about young players. There's not a lot of film on them, so you don't have much to study about how they rush the passer, how do they take their angles, are they coming correctly 45 degrees and then pressing 90, are they better with their hands, are they more speed to bull, are they more speed to chop? You have no idea. That's exactly what you need to do. Because again, as an offensive lineman, we study film more than any position. I'm going to go out there and say that. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But I'm going to say it because we look for tendencies, reads, and how's the guy. Because we know if we screw up, somebody can get hurt. But if you don't have film to watch on a player, how they play, how they move, their favorite move, all that kind of stuff, it's like it's hard to stop. I mean, and again, this is what the Jaguars got to do, right? If Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker are doing okay, they had good showing, but, mix it up. Bring these guys in, new looks, off the corner, new packages. Like, this is what it's all about. Because, again, what do you want to do offensive line? You want to confuse them. You want to say, hey, are they stunting game in TEET? We don't know. What's this guy doing? I don't know. So seeing that on Sunday, I hope the coaching staff understands just keep going because the Cardinals offensive line is also at best subpar, at best. So you need to be attacking them at the same point of attack because, and again, Jacoby Brissett, who I live in Raleigh, he's an NC State guy, nice guy, but he's not a guy that can win you the game. So it's time to get up, get after them, and make sure you get that W.
Hey, 47 completions for Jacoby Brissett on Sunday. That is an NFL record. Meanwhile, the Jaguars had 47 rushing attempts, which was the record this season in a single game for one of the 32 teams in the NFL. T-Wig, I see you raising your hand. You got something quick before we take our first time out?
Yeah, I will say this. We don't want to take Josh and Trayvon out too much. We don't want the hockey substitutions, but we do want the key to those guys getting in the game is to put them in obvious passing situations. In order for that to happen, you got to score points. That's just it. You score points, then you can bring those pass rushers in. But you got just to be clear, the two best players on their defense are those two edge rushers.
So what I would do then, right? Great point. If that's the case, then if you know it's fourth down and third down and long, whatever, then bring those other guys in and then keep those guys on the edge, move them around. Back when I played the Colts, they were notorious for that. John Turling, who was the D-line coach, said, you don't get paid to stop the run. You stop the run on the way to the quarterbacks. What did they do? They had Robert Mathis, Dwight Freeney, Raheem Brock. They had these. Nobody was over 260 pounds on D-line with third and long. Nobody. So get creative. Keep Walker on the edge, Howell on the edge. Bring other guys too. Just get creative. Bring some things in and bring more speed because when you know it's a pass, speed kills offensive linemen, usually not power.
Anthony Campanelli definitely got creative with those defensive fronts against the Los Angeles Chargers. Also got creative with sixth-round rookie Rayon Lane seeing his most significant run at the safety spot on Sunday. Robert was among the first in the chat here on a fine Monday post-game edition of the Jaguar Squad Show. He asks, what are your thoughts on the Jaguars signing of Juan Thornhill? Hang tight, Robert. We're going to answer that question as well as have updates from Liam Cohen's Monday availability coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back into a Monday night post-game edition of the Jaguar Squad Show. We appreciate the nearly 100 of you hanging out with us live. Be sure to leave a question, leave a thought, because we will be doing a live Q&A coming up in just a little bit. But first, wanted to bring you the very latest when it comes to the updates Liam Cohen was able to provide both during his Monday availability as well as some roster moves that we saw on this fine Monday. Let's start there. Juan Thornhill, a former second-round pick of the Kansas City Chiefs, recently released by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ironically, he was the one that laid that hit on Brian Thomas Jr. in the preseason game at Everbank Stadium when the Steelers and the Jags met, that so many believe maybe that was a hospital ball, Wigg, Marques Ogden. Maybe it played a factor in some of the hesitancy of the former first-round pick Brian Thomas Jr. in the early part of the 2025 season. I digress. Point being, Thornhill was signed to the practice squad today. In a corresponding move, the Jaguars released Khalif Hussein, who was signed off of the Minnesota Vikings roster about a month and a half ago or so, was a special teams contributor, somebody who they had their eye on as a depth piece, but became even more than a depth piece, even if he didn't actually play any defensive snaps, boys, because of Darnell Savage being released. Eric Murray, a significant injury that resulted in him being placed on the reserve injured list. And so, Wigg, I say to you, because I know you, more than perhaps anyone else in the Jaguars media contingent and fan base, has said from the beginning that Eric Murray, well, yes, Houston Texans fans wanted to drag him the last 2 years. He is the definition of raising the floor at that position. Are you concerned with this signing of Thornhill to the practice squad, what it could mean for Murray and his status moving forward?
No, because what it is a look-see. I really hate the term kicking the tires because I just think it can be used in bad context sometimes. But it's a look-see. It's a veteran who's played snaps. He might have got cut from two teams. So did C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and he scored a touchdown and he got a couple of sacks the other day. Guys get cut for different reasons. Sometimes it's schematic. Sometimes it's a fit. Sometimes at this time of year, you see a dude that's played at a high level for good teams. You got to take a chance on him more than maybe a younger guy with a whole bunch of talent, but he doesn't have the navigation system in his mind yet because he doesn't have the experience. So I can understand why the Jaguars did it. It's not going to save their season. If you're dependent on him to do that, then, I got some swampland to sell you. But what it will do, he'll show up every day. He knows how to work. He understands stuff. He understands exactly what he's looking at. The coach, the coach will know what to expect from him. He'll know what to expect from the coach. And he can even tell younger guys like Antonio Johnson some little things that might help him in certain situations. And in a pinch, he can go in and help you through some tough times. I don't think he's going to be a savior for the team, because if he was this time of year, he wouldn't be out there. But I do think it's better than having someone who you might believe does not understand football the way a veteran does.
Marcus, we are going to get to T-Wig's question of Liam Cohen from Monday's press conference here in just a second. But first, want to give you the floor. The Jaguars secondary, from what they told me, they just ran a lot of cover 4 on Sunday against the Chargers. Decent amount of cover 3. They matched with Jarian Jones on the inside, and that's all it took to have Justin Herbert in a blender. I alluded to that 3-safety dime look in which the six-round safety out of Navy, Rayon Lane, saw his first extended run on the defensive side of the ball. What did you make of the Jaguars second and third level against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, they did a good job of just containing the guys in the receiving core and not allowing anybody to get behind them. And again, this is the thing. Again, Tony makes a great point. At this time of the year, guys that are available, you shouldn't expect them to come and be the savior of your football team, but you're looking for, and again, this is the part of football that people don't understand. Everybody thinks, oh, well, everybody should be like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or whatever, or Trevor Lawrence. Well, that's not the case, because a lot of times guys come in for a month and a half, like the one guy, and you get released. And then you have to bring another guy in who may fit the culture better. Coaches are looking for leadership in positions all the time, so they can find it in a veteran who is crafty, hardworking, that can inspire the young players to help them get better habits, be more disciplined, watch more film, fit the culture better. That's what you're looking for in veteran leadership that you pick up this time of year. So I think the secondary has done a really good job of just continuing to not let anybody push them around, not let anybody behind them, and again, come up, make the tackle when it's time to make the tackle, and you just keep going to the next play.
You know, I find this though. Excuse me, Mia. Veteran. One of my hobbies is looking through coaching rosters and seeing who's available for who and where, and the fits and their connections to our staff in the past. I do that just in case guys get jobs. And the thing that I notice about a lot of the DB coaches, especially, is they were guys just like Thornhill. A lot of dudes that are coaching in the NFL were guys just like that, played on 5-6 different teams, and people can say, well, that means people didn't want it. No, when you picked up that many times, that means somebody did want you. So, you know, and you learn a lot of systems, you learn a lot of the way, and there are guys, like Marques said, that these coaches trust. It's just a trusted veteran that you don't have to tell him how to prepare. You don't have to tell him every little thing. You just got to maybe hope his bones and his body holds up, and you don't have to use them too much. But I find a lot of guys just like this, they are position coaches in college and in the NFL for a reason.
And what happens is, right, Tony, Mia, a lot of times players can be a good player, but a new coach comes in and you don't fit with that coach for whatever reason. Like when I was in Baltimore, things were going well. We had a new O-line coach come in. Well, he did not get along with my brother. So he let me go. Then I went to Buffalo and had a career with Buffalo, and that was great. And then what happens? Malarkey, unfortunately, gets let go, right? And I stayed. And then what happens? Jerron came in, new coach came in. So I lasted a year after that. New coach comes in. They want new players. They want a new feel. So this is the part of the business that people don't understand. Like, it's not about if a player has talent or not. Sometimes that player and that coach don't get along. Sometimes a new coach comes and wants to say, you know what, let's get rid of everybody, get fresh people in here. It's all about the culture. It's all about the fit. And that's the business side of football a lot of people don't see.
Vincent was a little bit late to the chat in the start of our live stream. He does want to wish a happy belated to Marques, as do we. Happy belated.
Thank you.
Birthday, bro.
My birthday was Saturday. Yeah, so I had to turn 45. God, I feel old, but it's all good.
Hey, listen, looking great for 45, and we appreciate everybody who's celebrating this belated birthday stream, this belated post-game stream as well. T-Wig, you were on the conference call today with Liam Cohen. That's where I want to go next. Your question of Liam Cohen was...
Well, what I asked him was, sometimes when you have guys that have played, and I'm not necessarily talking about Brenton Strange or Jordan Lewis. I was really talking about Brian Thomas Jr. And those guys miss time because they're out with injuries. Brian Thomas is also injured, but he wasn't playing well before he was hurt. So the question I basically asked him, with those guys standing on the sideline watching their teammates win, and those are three very significant players, including Anton Harrison, what is there a motivation? I basically asked him if he had spoken to those guys since the game ended, and how anxious are they to get back out there. And Liam said something that kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. He said, yeah, I did speak to them, and they're happy for their teammates. Everybody, we were trying to get a couple of guys back. And he said, almost, and you can go see it on Jaguars.com. He said, you know, we want to get them back involved, and, you know, hopefully when they come back, they'll be ready to go. And something to that nature almost is like saying, are you saying somebody ain't going to just necessarily get their job back? And I immediately thought about Jacoby Myers. I immediately thought about how he caught balls in traffic, and how as soon as he caught the ball, he turned upfield. And I'm sitting there thinking like, look, if this continues to go this way, BTJ isn't just going to come back from injury and all of a sudden he's number one all over again. I think he's going to have to earn his way back in and earn the respect of his teammates and his coaches.
We are going to do a live Q&A coming up. So I know that there's a lot that we're going to dive into because we haven't addressed Jakobi Meyers, number 3, has led the Jaguars now twice in just 12 days on the team in receiving in 2 ball games. But Marcus, let's get this kick started a little bit. If you are Liam Cohen, and Brian Thomas Jr. did warm up yesterday. He did get some work in with the trainers, even if ultimately they knew he wasn't going to be able to go for a second straight week. So the expectation is he will be available against the Arizona Cardinals, at least as of now. How are you using him? What's that wide receiver rotation looking like if you're Liam Cohen, Marcus?
You know what? Right now, the way Jakobi Meyers is playing, he's been there for a short time. He has led them in 2 games in catches, has been a top producer and leadership on the field. How do you go and put him back at number 1, right? Again, how do you do it? You don't just say, hey, here's your job back. Like, you have to earn. This is the National Football League, right? It is. And again, now it's one thing to be like a consistent, Hall of Famer type of player. That's a lot different. But again, when you're a young guy, Brian's been in the league a little bit. Now he's not an old head. You have a guy like Myers that's playing well, that's getting after it, that's catching the football, turning up field, making plays. And again, he hasn't been there that long, right? So what do you need to give him more? Reps. That's what makes the continuity better. That's what makes everything move smoother. So again, if you're Liam Cohen, you have to go with what? What's winning, what's producing. That's what you have to go with. This is football. Whoever has the hot hand, you got to keep them in the game, and you got to keep making them the person that you go to.
Hef says, make BTJ the Z, just like he was at LSU. Robert says, check it out. If Myers is Marvin Jones Jr., BTJ is Zay. Parker can be Christian Kirk. Before we get ahead of ourselves, we do have to take a timeout. But when we come back, we will workshop what Brian Thomas Jr.'s return to the lineup could mean, what Bretton Strange's return to the Jaguars lineup against the Cardinals could mean. Don't go anywhere. The Locked On Jaguar Squad show continues right after this. Hello, friends. Want to tell you a little bit about our friends at, wait for it. I think it's here somewhere. There it is. That's right, Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. Right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, boys, it's time. You were itching at it. We had to take a quick timeout. T-Wig, I know you've been stewing on it. If Bretton Strange returns next week, if Brian Thomas Jr. returns next week, what does the Jaguars' offensive lineup, offensive pecking order look like?
For me, what it looks like is Parker Washington plays flanker. Brian Thomas Jr. is the X. Parker plays split end. Brian Thomas Jr. is at flanker. And then you put Jakobi Meyers at the F position because that's where he played mostly his entire career. I think ideally that's what it'll look like. Now, if Travis was still there, it'd be different, but I don't think it's that controversial. Basically, you didn't see De'Ami Brown involved very much yesterday, except for one attempt on a deep shot. So you're basically talking about Tim Patrick. I think Tim Patrick becomes your number 4 is what Parker Washington was. And that's different packages. Goal line, when you know you're going to run, he's a big body who's a good blocker. And then I think you mix it up and they play 4 receivers and they sprinkle in Diami Brown when they want to go deep. But I'm what I'm talking about is not necessarily starting, but how they used to be very, very intentional to go at Brian Thomas Jr. with the ball early. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just going to run their offense. And you know what? Go through your progressions and whatever comes open, comes open.
Vincent says BTJ's superpower is his speed. We just need his route diet to cater to it and let Myers Strange run the majority of underneath routes. This is a live Q&A, folks. So if you have questions, if you want to chime in either on this wide receiver topic or another topic in Duval, we will get to it here momentarily. But Marcus, certainly if Brenton Strange returns, it aids the run game, but he would also take some snaps out of that slot position. And so in turn, how do you balance trying to get all these wide receivers touches while also trying to get in someone onto the field who was so integral to your offensive operation prior to his quad and hip injury?
You know what? That's a beautiful thing you just said. How can you balance getting all these guys to football? If most teams had that problem, they'd be like, wow, sign me up. Again, you have Myers, you have Robinson, you've got Strange, you got Parker, you got Washington. Like, you have all these different weapons. And so, honestly, if as a former liner, right, if my receivers were so worried about getting the ball, and everybody wants to catch, I understand that. But you're trying to win. You need to win. And so getting everybody back on the field, playing together, healthy, you give Lawrence a lot more options to go after. So this is great. I mean, if they can just put it all together and bring all these guys back healthy, get them out there together, the continuity. Again, this, BJ, look, man, this is football, right? You got injury, help you back on the field. Great. But you know what? You may not be number one. That's okay. Work your way up. If Myers gets hurt or whatever happens, you just keep doing your job. Just keep grinding, keep working. So I feel it's a great problem to have because you give Lawrence weapons and you need to give him those progressions, right? Look people off, go check down, whatever the case may be. And don't stop running the football, though, because running the football sets you up for play action, for rollouts, for pulls, counters to kind of get him out of the pocket. Trevor Lawrence is almost 6'6", 230 pounds. The man can run. Just don't stop running the football. It sets everything else up for the big plays.
Social says, throw it to the open one. Well done, Social. I think that is certainly going to be, that's going to be the plan of attack, needless to say. Let's get some other questions here on a Jaguar Squad Show Monday edition. This is from Hef earlier on in the program. Question: do we have to have a talk about right tackle? Is it time for Cole Van Lanen to start at that right tackle position, Wigg? Anton Harrison, another player who missed this past Sunday's game with an injury. I did see him during the game. He was up in the booth and looked good. He certainly was at practice on Friday, working out with the athletic training staff next to the offensive line group that was doing position drills. I mean, there were also people less than a week ago who said that Anton Harrison should be moved to left tackle, and Walker Little played a pretty good game at left tackle. So what say you, Wigg, to that performance by CVL, but also how you evaluate those two tackles moving forward?
No, Anton Harrison is the starter.
At right tackle?
At right tackle, yeah. Okay. Because we just sat here and talked about cohesion, chemistry, continuity, and all of those things. And for 5 or 6 weeks, I thought Anton Harrison was going to the Pro Bowl. Then he got banged up, and he had a game or two where he didn't play very well, and now he's hurt. He is probably their most talented offensive lineman. He was having a real good season at the start of this year. Guys are supposed to step up. I'm not ready to just give people's jobs away because guys stepped up and did what they're paid to do. I don't think it works that way. These coaches have a large body of work. It's good to know that Cole Van Lanen did what he did just in case Anton has to move for some reason. But no, I think Anton Harrison, if he's healthy, he was playing well enough that he gets his job back.
Another one. This is from Duval TV. Marcus, I'll have you take this one. Duval TV says, I love the Wildcat, and I loved the other play they did. The fake left, fake to the right, the tight end leak over the middle. Oh, we are in our bag. That's also a play that it was reminded to me. The Jaguars ran for a James O'Shaughnessy touchdown once upon a time at Mile High in 2019. So good to see that play make its way out of the playbook and onto the field. Marques, what say you to the sophistication and the sheer artistry of the play calling from Liam Cohen, both in the run game and the passing game? Because he told us today, and he certainly said it post game as well on Sunday afternoon, these were not new plays. They just finally found themselves ahead of the sticks and able to execute those plays in the book.
Because those plays are set up off running the football. I keep saying this, and I'm going to say so I'm blue in the face. If you're not running the football well, you can't fake right or fake left because no one's going to buy it. No one's going to believe it. Or if they're going to have enough people up there with the linebackers are not going to come up and say, okay, we need to help against the run if they're not running the ball well. It's not going to happen. When you keep running and running and running, what happens is the linebackers say, oh, man, here comes another run. They cheat up. They come up with an extra yard to a yard and a half to 2 yards. And what happens when you go over the middle, misdirection, fake right, fake left, tight end leaks what? Behind them for what? A nice 10, 15, 20-yard pass, and that's what it's all about. So all these plays that they're doing, everybody understands, if you know the game of football, the run sets up everything else. If you can't run the football, nobody's going to buy what you're selling, right? Again, what made Peyton Manning so great? It looks like he was great. Peyton Manning was the master of play action. Why? He had Edgerrin James in that regard, right? That's what it's all about. You gotta give your offensive line also, because when you run the football like that, it slows down the pass rush. Because they're not blazing up the field. They're actually trying to get into you, do what? Control the line. Like, oh my God, it's a pass. Now I got to start my engine again. By the time you do that, ball should be gone. So this is what it's all about. And I'm absolutely loving the play calling, and they're sticking to what? Their plan of attack.
Let's hit a couple of more questions before we look ahead to the Jaguars Week 12 matchup with the Cardinals. This one I will give to T-Wig. This is from Let's Talk the Video Files on YouTube. Should Trevor continue to wear the wristband with plays? First game of the 2025 season, T-Wig, that he has sported the wristband after discussing with so many that he liked not having the wristband on the first few weeks of the season.
I think Trevor Lawrence needs to do what works. Whatever socks he wore yesterday, his T-shirt, he needs to do it again. That's what he needs to do. Just do what works. If wearing the wristband got you more positive results, and they know that, and the coaches know that, then do it. If wearing one that doesn't have anything written on it, and you got it around your elbow like the late great Kobe Bryant, and it helps you, then do it. Just whatever works, do it. The things that don't work, either don't do them or do them better. That's just the way that it goes. But it would take Liam Cohen to know from a communication standpoint how that affected the game. I don't know that from just watching it on TV. But all I tell you is this. If you do something and it works, keep doing it until it doesn't work.
I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious, Marques. Let's end with you and James. James's question for you, Marques. How can the Jaguars keep up the intensity they had this last game and not burn out?
They need to continue to run the football. We've already talked about that. But they also have to get very creative with how they're going to do a lot of their other plays that are not going to just be running, but running different places, right? Go right side, do counters, do misdirections. Continue to open up that playbook, because what happens is when you have new ideas, new plays, misdirection, all these things, again, the offense knows where the football is going. So we have the advantage. We want to do what? Tire the defense out. So again, this comes down to just smash mouth football at the same time, just as the defense, again, Tony talked about earlier, when it's passing downs and it's third and long or second and long, get some different packages in there. Get some faster, more athletic guys on the defensive line and make it difficult for the offensive line to stop the speed, because that's what's going to get them out of sorts, out of whack, and that's what guys need to be doing in that regard. That's just kind of like how I feel on that front.
And a reminder that T-Wigg is with you each and every day here on the Locked On Jaguars channel. T-Wigg, you want to plug today's episode because you dove into this exact topic of how the Jaguars can play pissed off even after a massive victory.
Just being self-motivated. Know what losing feels like. And not losing when you just got beat, but losing when you seemingly beat yourself. That's just a feeling you just don't want, man. And to know that you left something out there, to know that you fell short only because you thought you had it in the bag. This is the NFL. And you just think they're 6-4 now. Man, if they were 7-3, or you go back to Cincinnati, 8-2, you're sitting there and people look at you differently. They look at you like you got an 850 credit score when you win in those games like that. It's like walking into a car dealership and when you know you got it and they know you got it, they ain't going to try to give you a bad deal. They just treat you differently. So the thing is don't be that team that says woulda, coulda, shoulda. That you just have to stay self-motivated and understand that when you are motivated, things like yesterday happen. And I'm telling you, the Chargers are a pretty good football team, even with their injuries on the offensive line. And they took them apart systematically. That's a proof of concept that whatever approach you had this week is going to work each and every time you go out to make you competitive. And I think that's all they can ask for.
Vincent.
Go ahead. I'm gonna tell you one thing, man. I'm sorry to cut you off. I've talked to a lot of my retired NFL brothers, Tony and Mia. I can tell you right now, no team in the NFL wants the Jaguars to make it to the playoffs.
Ooh.
Nobody. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Chargers. They should have. They can beat very good football teams, right? I feel the Colts. They can beat them. There's nobody that the Jaguars don't feel right now that they can beat. After that game, people are saying if the Jaguars get into the playoffs, right, they're saying, because why? They're finally running the football like they're supposed to, and they're getting after the passer with not as much of the things they had to do earlier in the season. So I'm telling you right now, if the Jaguars get into the playoffs, which I believe they will, people do not want to play them right now. They just don't.
They have the greatest strength of victory of any team in the National Football League. There is just one of the 6 teams that they beat who currently does not have a winning record, that being the Las Vegas Raiders. And to T-Wig's point, the Cincinnati Bengals don't have a winning record, but they did have Joe Burrow for only a quarter of that game. And certainly if they'd had him the rest of the way, people might be talking about them a little more. And the Houston Texans sitting at 500. That's an AFC South game. You throw those two into the mix, and I think even more teams, Marcus, are afraid of the Jaguars getting hot at the right time. Vincent wants to remind you to always listen to Locked On Jaguars each and every day. Make it your first listen of the day. Apparently there was a great story about the mattress. So, I'm excited to dive into that one, T-Wigg, because I only listened to your post-game show from yesterday, but the mattress apparently is the headline coming out of Monday's Locked On Jaguar show. This is the Jaguar Squad show, our post-game edition. We will be back on Wednesday, but before we talk about Wednesday's show, we do want to give you a sneak preview of our initial thoughts about the Jaguars, the Arizona Cardinals. Marcus already said this is a subpar Cardinals offensive line at best. We discuss coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Hello, friends. Let's get to know my friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back into the Jaguars Squad show. One more segment to go. And yes, we will continue to hit your questions, but we also want to give you our initial impressions when it comes to the Jaguars Week 12 matchup with the Arizona Cardinals. Marcus, start us off. You called it. You say this is another subpar offensive line. The Jaguars pass rush struggled with a subpar makeshift Texans offensive line, had their way with the Chargers B, C, practice squad, as I keep hearing on Twitter, offensive line. What do you say? Give us an idea about what the Arizona front looks like in front of, oh boy, T-Wig, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. So in reality, I tell everybody the Cardinals, I actually watched them play against San Fran. They are at best makeshift. They struggle in pass protection with the 5-7 step drop. They don't do a good job of holding the position at the line at the point of attack in the running game. And they just don't do a good job with the stunts and twists from what I've seen watching them so far this season. The Jaguars have to continue to with their what the rushers have to do is they've got to press those outside shows of the tackle and collapse them and make Brissett feel the pressure. Even if they don't sack him or hit him, just make him feel that pressure. Close the pocket down. Don't give him a lot of width or depth. Get in his face as much as possible. And on the opposite side of the ball, just really and truly do what you've been doing. Don't stop what you've been doing. It's been working. You've had some great performances. This is a big game for the Jaguars to get that W and go to 7-4. It's a much different outlook at 7-4 than 6-5. So they got to go out there and shut it down on the defense, on offense, get after them and make those big plays and get those guys going at the receiver position.
I'll throw another stat out there before we hear T-Wig's initial impressions of the Arizona Cardinals. They were 7th in rushing yards per game a season ago. That was, of course, with a healthy James Conner, and that was with Clayton Adams as the offensive line coach. He is now the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys under Brian Schottenheimer, and the Arizona Cardinals, sans a season-ending injury to James Conner, find themselves with the 24th ranked rushing attack, T-Wig, in the National Football League. Marcus has been hitting it all show long. If you can't run the ball, you're one-dimensional on offense. Good luck trying to find success. And then you couple that with now starting Jacoby Brissett, who, quite frankly, the shine of the alternative to Kyler Murray has rubbed off a little bit. Marcus, I know you're going to have some thoughts on Jacoby, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But T-Wig, your initial impressions of Jonathan Gannon's Cardinals.
They shocked me a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a Monday or Sunday night where they won a game, and Marvin Harrison Jr. played well. Trey McBride is a top 5 tight end in the league, and that's the part that scares me because the one thing about Jacoby is he's not a consistent week-to-week starter, but he does have a big arm. People don't realize Jacoby could have got a basketball scholarship. In fact, when he went to Florida, he played both basketball and football. So he was a very, very good basketball player. He's not a nifty athlete, but the Jaguars have struggled with backup quarterbacks, whether it be Joe Flacco, whether it be Jake Browning, and then we saw, Mills in Houston. And he can fall into that realm. Now, he's not going to catch you by surprise because they've had a couple of weeks where they've seen him, and it's not his first start. But he can beat you with, he can make some throws almost in like a Jameis Winston type way where he can make big throws. He just can't beat you consistently. But he does have 2 very, very good players in Marvin Harrison as well as Trey McBride.
Vincent says, thank you for the stats and info, by the way. The NFL record for completed passes, yes, 47. Ironically, on the same week that the Jaguars ran the ball 47 times, which is a league-wide best mark for 2025. LOL. Shout out to Dennis Gardick. Big day for 47, too. 47 of 57 was Jacoby Brissett. Vincent says, we better not let him repeat that performance. Albeit, Marcus, Robert pointed out that it was a 26 QBR rating. And Hef also wants to note that once upon a time, Jacoby Brissett was sacked 10 times in one game by the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. 47 to 57, that's awesome. And all these things are great. But again, when it comes to quarterback, right, it's all about the leadership perspective and be able to win football games, right? That's big. Marvin Harrison Jr., phenomenal football player. Trey McBride, phenomenal tight end, right? But at the end of the day, you have to have that individual that can lead on every aspect on the football field. And again, nothing against Brissett. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, thing like that. But again, when it comes to winning, you have to find a way to get it done. So it's all about being able to be effective and efficient. And Tony, this when you're a quarterback, if you win, you get the glory. If you lose, it's your fault, right? That's just the way it is. But the Jaguars just have to do exactly what they did against Herbert and get him and get after him and just make him uncomfortable. Again, the Cardinals offensive line is makeshift at best. Just don't allow him to have much time in the pocket. He's not very mobile either. So you gotta keep him inside the pocket, and then just don't stay in your lanes. Get to the quarterback, and it should be a great day for the Jaguars. They can just continue to do what they did against the Chargers.
That was against Dallas. That was against Dallas, Mia. That's the game that they won.
That he was sacked 10 times. Okay.
Yeah, I know they won the game against Dallas, and then people were saying the next day,
that his QBR was 26.
Are they going to bench Kyler Murray? And he ended up going on IR. So there was a faction of people in Arizona after he beat Dallas on the primetime game that actually wanted him to stay as the starting quarterback.
And here we are. He is the starter, and Kyler Murray, mysterious injury. They're still workshopping that behind the scenes. And so the expectation, Jacoby Brissett will start against the Jaguars on Sunday. Let's briefly flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Again, we will be back on Wednesday with a full preview of this matchup, but do want to hit a couple of the high points. This is a Cardinals defense that I'm going to just read off the starting lineup. And when I tell you that they're bottom 10 in sacks, Marcus T. Wigg, maybe it's a surprise. This is a team that has Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, albeit in his 18th season in the league, but he still has more sacks than all but one member of your Jacksonville Jaguars individually. Dalvin Tomlinson, former first rounder in Darius Robinson, another first rounder in Zaven Collins, Budda Baker still in the back end, two young guys in Garrett Williams and Will Johnson who have been beat up of late. Denzel Burke still lurking. Baron Browning is out, maybe not having the best of seasons. Oh, and by the way, their first round pick this year, Walter Nolan, who I know has also had his fair share of injuries that kept him from debuting for the first few weeks of the season. But those are some pretty marquee names, Marcus. And that's where I'm curious to see what's it going to take for them to click, especially knowing this is a Cardinals defensive scheme that is regarded as one of the most exotic in the National Football League, and that could maybe spell some trouble for Trevor Lawrence.
So exotic doesn't mean effective or efficient. You can put all the players that you want on a team, but if the scheme, if the calls, if the coordinator, if it's not playing to the strength of the team, of who his players are, it's not going to make a difference. Again, all these guys are phenomenal players individually, but again, football is not an individual sport. Even on defense, you have to what? Stay in your lane. You have to what? Play your responsibility. You have to do what? Play your gap. You have to do what? Not allow you to get beat where at the point of attack. So if you have guys and you're not utilizing them correctly, then it doesn't matter how great they are individually. You're not gonna be able to what? Get the win where it matters. So again, all these players, Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, all these great guys who've been phenomenal football players for other teams, high first round draft picks. That means nothing if the schemes and the plays and the schematics are not being called to the strength of the guys on your defense.
They're middle of the pack, T-Wig, when it comes to stopping the run are the Arizona Cardinals at 112 yards per game. So there is an opportunity there to run on this team, even if they can affect the quarterback.
Yeah, you got to run, even if they were top five at this point. The way we've been beating on this topic all day, if they were a top five team, you got to just go and force your will on them. And then because they're not a top five team, it doesn't matter that you play with any less urgency. You still got to do it because that is what your identity is. Because it's going to train you as you get closer to the end of the year, and you have to run through Denver. You're going to run from smoke when you go to Mile High? No, you're going to try to run the football. I don't care if they're good on defense. You still got to do what you got to do, because the second you get into the playoffs, teams make it to the playoffs because they're good at stuff. You got to do what you're good at. Don't play it on their turf and with their landscape. You have to force your will on your opponent. And 15th, yeah, act like they're number 5. That's what you need to do. Act like they're a top 5 team and still have the attitude that you're going to just force yourself to make them play the game that you want them to play.
Well, especially because this is a Jaguars team that, as we discussed a little bit earlier, seems to play to the level of their competition, both to that competition of being elite and maybe that competition of being bottom 5 in the National Football League. Let's hit a couple more before we get out of here, Marcus. This is from King David. Whatever defensive coordinator Anthony Campanelli did this week to break it down and build it back up, strategize that way again every game. Final thoughts from the Jaguars 35-6 win, Marques, over the Chargers on the defensive side of the ball and how it can be replicated this week.
They did a phenomenal job of containing the run. They got after the quarterback. They did a great job. They got sacks from the D-line position, from D ends and D tackles. And at the end of the day, the defense did a phenomenal job of not letting the star players or the even decent players in the receiver position get behind them in the passing game. What you have to do, strategize and know what are the Cardinals' strengths, right? It comes down to Harrison, McBride. You got to have some good things in there to cover, like you did with Allen against the Chargers. All they need to do is play to their strength and don't get too out of whack. And as Tony talked about, put the best players on the field. Walker, Hines Allen got to show up again. More pressure, more disruption, more havoc, more sacks. Just keep getting after it. This way, you don't allow them to make the same moves on that regard. So I think the way it played against the Chargers was great. And I feel if they do that against the Cardinals, it'll be a phenomenal win for Jacksonville.
All I know is, T-Wig, we're getting comments like this from Matthew. This is the season that we could win out. If you had showed us Matthew's comment last week, I think the three of us would have believed you. I don't know if the rest of the Jaguars faithful would have believed you. But hey, we digress. And we will be back on Wednesday, 4 p.m. Set your alarm, set your calendar accordingly. We will further break down this matchup between the Jaguars and the Cardinals coming up Sunday out in the desert. We appreciate you guys making Locked On your first listen each and every day. And we appreciate you hanging out live for this edition of the Jaguar Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network.